this is a bad situation. I think this is something that's going to taint whatever legacy he hoped to have.
POV, you're a Cowboys fan watching your best player get traded because Jerry Jones thought he could finesse a handshake deal in 2025. This is Stephen A. Smith absolutely losing his mind about Micah Parsons. And folks, when Stephen A. calls something a bad situation that's going to taint whatever legacy he hoped to have, you know someone messed up big time. But here's the plot twist that's about to break your brain. Everyone thinks Micah Parsons lost $25 million in some financial disaster, but he actually gained $50 million by being supposedly broke. Stephen A. didn't expose Parsons going bankrupt. He exposed the Dallas Cowboys going absolutely stupid. Pause this video right now and guess how much Parsons is making per year after this supposed financial disaster. I guarantee you'll be wrong, and by the end of this video, you'll understand how the most dominant defensive player in the NFL went from financial ruin to the richest non-quarterback in league history. This story is absolutely unhinged. But first, if you're ready for the most insane NFL financial drama you've ever heard, smash that like button because this story has more plot twists than a Marvel movie. Let's start from the beginning of this absolute train wreck. Jerry Jones really woke up in 2025 and said, "We don't need agents, just vibes and handshake deals," like he was buying a used pickup truck from his neighbor. The man is 82 years old and genuinely believed he could outsmart a modern NFL negotiation by going around Parsons' agent. Picture this, it's March 2025, and Jerry Jones sits down with Micah Parsons for what he thinks is going to be some good old-fashioned cowboy negotiating. Jones walks out of that meeting convinced he just secured a 5-year, $140.5 million deal with a handshake. Meanwhile, Parsons is probably thinking, this old man just tried to finesse me like we're trading cattle. The audacity is unmatched. Jones literally claimed they had a deal after one conversation. Sir, this isn't 1975. You can't just wink at a player and expect them to sign for peanuts because you said, "Howdy, partner," really convincingly. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Remember back in December 2023 when Parsons said he'd be willing to take a hometown discount to stay in Dallas? His agent David Mulugeta probably had a legitimate heart attack when he heard that. You never tell Jerry Jones you'll take less money. That's like telling a shark you're bleeding in the water. Parsons basically walked into that March meeting already having told Jones, "I don't need market value." And Jones thought he could lock him up for bargain prices. The man really said, "Well, he told me he'd take less, so here's way less," and expected that to work. The Cowboys exercised Parsons' 5th-year option for $21.3 million, but Parsons and his team argued he deserved $24 million because he plays linebacker, not defensive end. That's a $2.67 million difference that turned into a whole grievance filing over less than $3 million. Jerry Jones, who bought the Cowboys for $140 million and they're now worth $9 billion, was really penny pinching over pocket change. But wait, it gets so much worse because Micah Parsons was about to go full savage mode and Jerry Jones had no idea what was coming. When Parsons realized Jerry Jones was trying to play him, he said BET and proceeded to choose absolute violence. This man really started a psychological warfare campaign that would make Sun Tzu proud. First, he scrubbed all Cowboys content from his social media like an ex after a bad breakup. We're talking every photo, every mention, every piece of Cowboys branding gone. Deleted. Thanos snapped out of existence. Cowboys fans were probably refreshing his Instagram like maybe he'll post a throwback. Nope, not happening. Then came the injury arc that was absolutely genius. Parsons shows up to training camp in Oxnard, California, and suddenly his back hurts. Not hurt enough to miss mandatory activities because that would mean fines, but definitely too hurt to practice. The Cowboys medical team clears him, says he's fine. Parsons says, "Actually, I need a second opinion." NFL players and mysterious injuries during contract disputes, name a more iconic duo. I'll wait. The man basically said, "I'm not injured, but I'm contract dispute injured, and there's a difference." But the real savage move came from his agent, David Mulugeta. When the Cowboys sent over contract details, this man allegedly told Jerry Jones and the entire Cowboys organization to stick it up our ass. The audacity, the disrespect, the absolute chaos of that response. Can you imagine being in that Cowboys front office when that message came through? Jerry Jones probably turned redder than his team's jersey. Stephen Jones probably spilled his coffee. The whole building probably went silent like, did this man just tell Jerry Jones to stick it where? And then Parsons posted the most iconic TikTok in NFL history. Allen Iverson saying, "I'm a win wherever I go." That was peak main character energy. Parsons really said, if y'all won't pay me, I'll make your life absolutely miserable. And honestly, respect. On August 1st, 2025, Parsons dropped the nuclear option, a public trade request, not through his agent quietly, not in a private meeting, a full social media announcement that basically said, get me out of Dallas or watch me ruin your season. The man really said, you want to play games? Let's play games, but we're playing by my rules now. Cowboys fans went from he'll never leave to, oh no, he's really leaving in about 30 seconds. But Stephen A. Smith was watching all this unfold, and he was about to absolutely lose his mind in the most beautiful way possible. When Stephen A. Smith gets fired up about Dallas Cowboys business, it's appointment television. And brother, this man didn't just get fired up about Micah Parsons, he went nuclear. We're talking weapons-grade Stephen A. energy that could power a small city. Stephen A. looked at Jerry Jones's handling of this situation and said, this is egregious, this is disrespectful, this is a bad situation. When Stephen A. uses that tone, you know someone is about to get absolutely cooked. But the real carnage started when Stephen Jones, Jerry's son, and the Cowboys CEO had the audacity to suggest that Parsons has got to want to get paid as well, implying Parsons wasn't motivated to finalize a deal. Stephen A. heard that and chose violence. This man really called Stephen Jones's comments one of the most ignorant statements I've ever heard come out of the mouth of an executive. When Stephen A. Smith calls you ignorant, that's rough. That's like Gordon Ramsay calling your cooking terrible. It hits different when it's coming from the expert. Stephen A. really said, I respect Stephen Jones. I still owe him a drink for crying out loud, but that is one of the most ignorant statements ever. The man gave him a compliment and a devastating insult in the same sentence. That's elite level shade throwing. But Stephen A. wasn't done. He started breaking down Stephen Jones's credibility, basically saying, your position is because of your daddy, not your talent. The man really questioned whether Stephen Jones knew anything about football operations or if he was just there because of nepotism. Then Stephen A. dropped the comparison that ended the conversation, Emmitt Smith's holdout in the 1990s. He basically said, your daddy did this before with a running back and lost. You're about to do it again with the Defensive Player of the Year candidate and lose worse. The savage energy was unmatched. Stephen A. told Parsons to sit out week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles, just like Emmitt did. He said, you want to send a message and create discomfort for Jerry Jones the way he has done for you. Think about the psychological warfare of that advice. Stephen A. basically said, make Jerry Jones sweat by showing him what his defense looks like without you against his biggest division rival in prime time. That's some Game of Thrones level strategic thinking. And then Stephen A. made the prediction that aged like the finest wine in history. He said 2025 could be Parsons' last season in Dallas. Cowboys fans said never. Stephen A. said, watch me. The man really said, Jerry Jones is salty, he's evaluating trade value, and he's about to lose a generational talent over pride. Everyone thought Stephen A. was overreacting. Turns out he was exactly right, because what happened next absolutely broke the internet and made Stephen A. look like Nostradamus with a sports journalism degree, August 28th, 2025, a date that will live in Cowboys infamy forever. The day Jerry Jones decided to prove Stephen A. Smith right in the most expensive way possible. The Dallas Cowboys really traded Micah Parsons. They really looked at the best defensive player they've had since DeMarcus Ware and said, nah, we're good. The audacity, the absolute chaos. Cowboys fans probably thought it was fake news for about 6 hours. Here's what the Cowboys got: 2 first-round draft picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. Here's what they gave up: a 26-year-old defensive player of the year candidate who had 52.5 sacks in 4 seasons. Let me break down this trade in terms everyone can understand. The Cowboys traded a guaranteed superstar for maybe future superstars. They traded a bird in the hand for 2 birds in the bush, except the bird in their hand was a golden eagle, and the birds in the bush might be pigeons. But here's where the story gets absolutely unhinged. The Green Bay Packers didn't just trade for Micah Parsons. They immediately signed him to a 4-year, $188 million contract with $136 million guaranteed. $188 million, $47 million per year. The man went from Jerry Jones saying, "We won't pay you $24 million," to Green Bay saying, "Here's $47 million annually, King." The irony is unmatched. Parsons went from financially struggling, according to the media, to highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history in literally one afternoon. That's not financial disaster. That's the greatest financial comeback in sports history. Cowboys fans were probably watching this contract announcement like, wait, we could have just paid him $40 million and kept him. Jerry Jones was probably in his office like, how did Green Bay afford $47 million when we couldn't afford $24 million? The Packers GM literally compared this acquisition to signing Reggie White in 1993. That's generational type respect. They said, this is our Super Bowl moment, and backed it up with the biggest contract in defensive history. Meanwhile, Cowboys fans got to explain to their kids why their favorite player was wearing green and gold because Jerry Jones thought he was smarter than the salary cap. Green Bay went from having the 26th ranked pass rush in 2024 to having the most expensive and dominant pass rusher in the NFL. They said defense wins championships and put their money where their mouth is. The Cowboys went from having the #1 defense with Parsons to having draft picks that might develop into players half as good as Parsons in 5 years, if they're lucky. But here's the crazy part that makes this story even more insane. All this drama about Parsons being a financial disaster completely ignored the fact that his on-field dominance made every penny worth it. Let's talk about why Green Bay paid Micah Parsons $188 million without blinking, while Jerry Jones was haggling over a few million like he was buying a used car. 52.5 sacks in 4 seasons. Let me say that again for the people in the back. 52.5 sacks in 4 years. This man really said, "I'm him," and had the receipts to prove it. Only 4 players in NFL history have more sacks in their first 4 seasons. Reggie White, DeMarcus Ware, J.J. Watt, and Aldon Smith. That's not just elite company, that's build a statue outside the stadium type company. But wait, there's more. The Cowboys defense ranked #1 in the NFL when Parsons was on the field. When he wasn't, number 32, dead last. That's not a player, that's a cheat code. That's like having Superman on your team and then wondering why you lose when he takes a day off. 330 quarterback pressures since 2021. That tied him with Max Crosby for the most in the entire NFL. Parsons was literally terrorizing quarterbacks across the league every single Sunday while Jerry Jones was worried about paying him market value. The man had 13 sacks as a rookie, the 4th most by a rookie in NFL history. Most players are happy to make the roster as rookies. Parsons was out here setting records and making Pro Bowls like it was easy. 3 straight Pro Bowls, 3 straight All-Pro selections, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he's only 26 years old. Jerry Jones really looked at a player in his prime with a Hall of Fame trajectory and said, nah, too expensive. But here's the stat that breaks your brain. Parsons has a 30% pass rush win rate. That means he beats his blocker and gets to the quarterback on nearly 1 out of every 3 pass plays. That's ridiculous. That's video game numbers in real life. The versatility is what made him absolutely unstoppable. This man played linebacker, defensive end, safety, and probably could have played quarterback better than some starters. NFL defensive coordinators were losing sleep trying to figure out where he was going to line up. When the Packers traded for him, they said this was their Reggie White moment. For younger viewers, Reggie White was so dominant that his signing literally changed the entire trajectory of the Green Bay Packers franchise. He helped them win a Super Bowl. The Packers looked at their 26th ranked pass rush and said, we're tired of being mediocre. Then they saw Parsons available and said, whatever it costs, get him. That's championship mentality. Meanwhile, Jerry Jones was probably calculating whether he could afford both Parsons and his yacht payments. The man owns a $9 billion franchise and was penny pinching over a player who single-handedly made his defense elite. And the best part, all the off-field drama that supposedly made Parsons a problem, It all disappeared the second he got to Green Bay. Turns out the drama wasn't Parsons being difficult, it was Jerry Jones being impossible to work with. The ultimate plot twist is about to blow your mind. Here's the insane truth that makes this whole story absolutely wild. The $25 million scam that Stephen A. Smith exposed wasn't Micah Parsons going broke, it was Jerry Jones scamming himself out of a Hall of Fame player. Think about the comedy of this situation. The media was talking about Parsons having financial problems while he was literally about to become the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. The man was never broke, he was just too expensive for Jerry Jones's ego. Stephen A. Smith called this entire situation from the beginning. He said Jerry Jones was being disrespectful. He said the Cowboys would lose Parsons. He said it was a bad situation that would taint legacies. He was right about everything. The real scam was Jerry Jones convincing himself that he could lowball a generational talent and keep him happy. The man really thought he could finesse Micah Parsons like this was 1995 and players had no leverage. Now Jerry Jones gets to watch Parsons dominate for the Green Bay Packers while explaining to Cowboys fans why they traded their best player for draft picks that might bust. Good luck with that conversation, Jerry. The Packers went from having an okay defense to having the most feared pass rusher in the NFL. They turned their weakness into their biggest strength by simply paying market value for elite talent. And the lesson for everyone, never try to finesse someone who knows their worth. Parsons knew he was elite. He knew he deserved elite money. He refused to settle for less than his value, and it paid off with the biggest contract in defensive history. Cowboys fans are probably still trying to figure out how their team went from Super Bowl contenders to rebuilding around draft picks in one trade. The answer is simple. Jerry Jones thought he was playing 4D chess and ended up playing checkers. The funniest part, Jerry Jones probably still thinks he won this negotiation somehow. The man lost a Hall of Fame player and probably convinced himself it was smart business. Stephen A. Smith gets his victory lap because literally everything he predicted came true. He said Jerry Jones was stubborn. He said Parsons would get traded. He said it would be a disaster for Dallas. Bingo on all counts. So the next time someone tells you Stephen A. Smith doesn't know what he's talking about, show them this video. The man called the biggest NFL trade of 2025 from months away because he understood that pride comes before the fall. Micah Parsons went from broke to richest defensive player in NFL history, and all it took was Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones. The man literally fumbled his way into the biggest contract ever by refusing to settle for disrespect. Comment fumbled if you think the Cowboys made the worst trade in NFL history. Comment genius if you somehow think Jerry Jones knew what he was doing. I'll be reading every single one. And if you want more content exposing how NBA and NFL teams absolutely fumble the bag with generational talents, smash that subscribe button because we're just getting started. I've got stories about terrible trades, horrible contracts, and front office disasters that will make your head spin. POV. You're a Cowboys fan watching Parsons dominate for Green Bay while Jerry Jones explains why draft picks are better than proven superstars. This has been the most unhinged NFL financial story in recent history, and somehow it's all true. Sometimes reality is stranger than fiction, and sometimes Jerry Jones makes decisions that prove it.